You were never meant to be the one they lost. You were the balance, the breath, the quiet force holding their world together. But people only recognize equilibrium when it collapses. When a Libra leaves, the universe does not replace them. It leaves a silence sharp enough to expose every truth they tried to hide. Because the moment they lose you, Libra, their chaos returns. Their masks fall, and regret becomes unavoidable. You were the harmony they assumed would stay. You were the blessing they mishandled. And now, life shows them the truth they cannot outrun. You are the one they regret losing most. They never notice the collapse at first. Regret is quiet in the beginning, almost ceremonial, like the sound of a single glass cracking in the dark. But the universe always knows when a Libra has left a life, because the air shifts, the rhythm falters, and the balance that once held everything together dissolves into a silence that shakes the soul awake. They do not grieve you all at once, Libra. They grieve you in fragments, in realizations that arrive too late, in moments when life demands emotional steadiness, and they reach instinctively for the presence that is no longer there. This is the first truth: you were their balance, and balance is a rare currency in a world addicted to extremes. Your absence exposes the first reason they regret losing you. Because with you, the atmosphere was calmer. Conversations softened. Chaos slowed. You carried a peace that didn't need to be announced, a harmony that settled into rooms like warm light. People underestimate this kind of energy until it is gone, until they are forced to face their own storms without the quiet soul who once steadied their hands. And you steady them in ways they didn't even recognize. Your listening was not passive, it was presence, a kind of emotional hospitality that made people feel held rather than judged. This is the second reason for their regret: you offered understanding without demanding repayment, and such generosity becomes unforgettable the moment life grows loud again. The third regret arrives when they compare what came after you. Suddenly, every new connection feels sharper, colder, more conditional. People either rush too loudly or withdraw too quickly. No one matches your grace. No one mirrors your emotional intelligence. You were the equilibrium, the unspoken reassurance, the calm at the center of their internal weather. And yet, they mistook your kindness for simplicity, your calm for convenience, your forgiveness for permanence. This is the fourth regret they try to swallow. They thought you would always stay. Libras love deeply, yes, but they will walk away quietly when the soul becomes too heavy with unspoken disappointment. The fifth regret reveals itself slowly, like a light flickering back on. They remember how your presence lifted their emotional maturity. You didn't preach, you didn't correct, but being with you required them to grow. Without you, they revert, they shrink, and it is only then they see the truth: you made them better, even if they never said it aloud. And the sixth regret appears like a ghost in their memory. Your beauty, not just the surface, but the way your spirit softened edges and warmed shadows. No one forgets the glow of a Libra, not in this lifetime, not in any. These regrets gather like rain clouds, forming the first storm of awakening. The truth presses against them with divine weight: you were never ordinary, and losing you was never small. For the story deepens from here into the hidden reasons they resisted you, the masks they wore, and the truths you saw too clearly. And now we enter the realm where their regret begins to take shape beneath the masks they once believed could hide them. They wore masks long before they lost you, not because they wanted to deceive you, Libra, but because your clarity terrified them. You see, most people are accustomed to living behind fogged glass, speaking through half-truths, loving through wounds they never tend to. But you were a mirror, polished by honesty, intuition, and emotional equilibrium. You reflected them back to themselves with a gentleness they didn't know how to handle. This is where the deeper regrets begin. The seventh reason they regret losing you is simple and brutal. You saw through their masks without tearing them off. You made space for their shadow without shaming it. You understood their silence their contradictions, their emotional hesitations. But being seen that clearly can feel like exposure, and some souls run from the light, even when they crave warmth. The eighth regret follows like a shadow behind the first. You forgave them too gracefully. Not blindly, not endlessly, but with maturity, with a heart that tried to give them room to grow. They mistook your grace for softness, for something they could lean against without consequence. Only later did they realize that your forgiveness was a bridge they set fire to with their own hands. Then comes the ninth regret, sharp and metallic. You never fought dirty. In conflict, you stayed calm, composed, unwilling to wound, just to win. You communicated with care, even when you were hurting. People do not appreciate emotional refinement until they return to relationships where battles are waged recklessly and words are thrown like weapons. The 10th regret is the one they never speak aloud. Your loyalty exposed their disloyalty, not always in action, but in intention. Your commitment was steady, present-rooted, while theirs flickered with uncertainty. And only after you left did they understand how rare loyalty feels when it is no longer theirs to lean on. Then comes the 11th regret, the one that wakes them at night. You read emotions they didn't know how to name. You interpreted pauses, gestures, silences, shifts in tone. You understood the subtext of their soul. No one else listens like that. No one else notices the subtle tremors beneath their voice. Without you, they feel more alone with themselves than they ever expected. But the 12th regret is the fatal one. You brought peace into rooms where they brought chaos. Your presence was a stabilizing force they didn't know they depended on. You were a sanctuary in a world made of noise. Now in your absence, they must face the storm they once hid from, and every gust of wind reminds them of you. And the 13th regret lingers like incense smoke. You supported their dreams without claiming ownership of them. You uplifted them quietly, selflessly pushing them toward their potential without ever asking for applause. Only later do people understand how rare it is to be loved, without competition, without envy, without agenda. These regrets form the architecture of their undoing, the invisible war they fought within themselves. Every time your light illuminated a truth they weren't ready to face, your energy demanded evolution, and now without you they must confront who they become without your influence. The story deepens now, for regret is not only emotional, it is cosmic. There is a moment when regret stops being emotional and becomes cosmic. A moment when the universe itself begins to rearrange the truth. Because losing a Libra is not a simple ending. It is the tipping of a scale that vibrates through every part of a life that once relied on your balance. The 14th regret begins here, written in the language of planets and patterns. Your presence softened their chaos in a way no one else ever could. Venus governs you, Libra, not as a gentle muse, but as a force that harmonizes what would otherwise collapse. When you walked into someone's world, the temperature shifted. Arguments became conversations. Uncertainty became clarity. Storms turned into navigable weather. People do not understand this influence until it is gone, until they are once again trapped inside their own emotional gravity, without the light you once provided. In astrology, Libra is the sign of relational alchemy. Your energy refines, it calibrates, it reveals what is broken, not to shame, but to heal. And this is the 15th regret, the one fate carves deep into their timeline. You elevated not just their emotions, but their entire way of being. With you, they became more articulate, more thoughtful, more aware. You pulled them upward without force, without lecture, without ego. Now when they engage with others, they feel the difference immediately. The conversations lack depth, the connection lacks grace, the energy lacks harmony. You were the rare frequency that made everything clearer. Picture at a dinner table, where the atmosphere hums with tension. People speak, interrupt, collide. But when you were there, Libra, the room aligned. Your presence tuned the energy like a conductor, raising a single hand. When you left, the table became a battlefield again. And only then did they understand you were not merely part of the harmony, you were the anchor of it. And so the cosmic regret intensifies. Because the universe does not let someone lose a Libra without teaching them why it matters. The scales must balance. What they took for granted must be shown in contrast. What they ignored must be illuminated. What they dismissed must return as truth. They begin to notice it everywhere. The way others fail to listen the way you did. The way new connections feel transactional instead of soulful. The way conversations become noise instead of understanding. You once held the emotional architecture together, and now every missing brick exposes a truth they avoided for too long. Something else happens too. A planetary memory. Relationships ruled by Venus imprint differently. Your beauty, your warmth, your emotional intelligence, your equilibrium. These qualities remain in their psyche, like constellations they can never unsee. Long after you are gone, they still compare every new presence to the harmony you once offered effortlessly. Your energy becomes the standard. Your love becomes the measure. Your loss becomes the turning point. And this is where regret shifts from subtle ache to rising panic. Because they finally understand what the cosmos has been trying to reveal. They did not lose just a person. They lost the balance that made them whole. If this is resonating, write yes in the comments now. For the next chapter arrives with force, the exact moment their regret breaks the surface and becomes undeniable. There is always a moment when regret stops whispering and begins to strike. A moment when the truth they avoided, denied, or buried turns into a storm they cannot outrun. For the ones who lost you, Libra, this moment arrives like a door blowing open in the middle of the night, sudden, undeniable, illuminated by the lightning of recognition. It begins with the smallest trigger, a song that once played in the background of your conversations, a phrase someone uses that echoes your tone, a stranger with your posture or your calm expression. And suddenly, their chest tightens with a realization they never wanted to confront. No one has made them feel as understood as you once did. This is where the reasons assemble themselves, uninvited, uncontrollable. The first wave hits when they notice how inconsistent people are without you as the reference point. Your steadiness, the way you loved without fluctuation, the way you offered emotional constancy, becomes a haunting absence. Now every unpredictable person they meet becomes a reminder that your consistency was a luxury they mishandled. Then comes the second wave, the silence. You listened to understand, not to respond. You held space, not to feel superior, but to make connection possible. And when they try to confide in others now, the surface-level responses feel hollow. The conversations feel rushed. The emotional depth feels shallow. Your listening becomes the benchmark they cannot find again. It is here the storm intensifies. They start replaying past moments. They dismissed your intuitive responses, your subtle emotional readings, your ability to sense what they felt before they said a word. They once thought this was normal. Now they know it was rare. And rarities cannot be replaced. They can only be mourned. Next comes the turning point, the emotional breaking point that always arrives. It's not dramatic. It's not theatrical. It's quiet, devastating, and undeniably true. They realize that the peace they felt with you wasn't coincidence. It was your presence, regulating what they could never regulate alone. Without you, their relationships feel heavier, more volatile, more draining. People argue louder, misunderstand more easily, recover more slowly. The home energy they once had with you, the soft warmth, the steady calm, the feeling of emotional safety, now feels like a distant memory they cannot recreate. And then comes the final trigger, the one that breaks their denial entirely. Someone else enters their life who lacks your emotional fairness, someone who takes more than they give. Someone who escalates instead of diffusing. Someone whose love feels conditional, sharp, imbalanced. And in that moment, regret hits with full force. Because they realize the truth their soul has been circling. You were not just good for them. You were the best they ever had. Not because you were perfect. Not because you never hurt. But because you brought balance. Where they brought chaos, clarity. Where they brought confusion and growth, where they brought stagnation. And now, as they face the emotional debris left behind by their own choices. The universe delivers its verdict. Losing you was the turning point, the moment the scales tipped against them. Regret becomes destiny here, and destiny is about to reveal its paradoxical blessing, hidden inside the loss they never meant to create. There is a moment after the storm where everything becomes eerily clear. The regret that once throbbed softly now sharpens into revelation. Because losing a Libra is not simply losing a person, it is losing access to a destiny-altering energy that no one else can replicate. And this is where the universe unveils its paradox. Your absence becomes the doorway to their awakening, and the vault to which they no longer hold the key. The first seal of this vault is the grace with which you left. Most people leave with noise, accusation, collapsed boundaries, or scattered debris. But you, Libra, you left quietly, respectfully, with dignity that cut deeper than any argument could. And this is where the next layer of regret roots itself, because the silence you left behind was not empty. It was final, a spiritual full stop. The respect in your departure became the weight of their regret. Then comes the second seal, your loyalty, the kind that does not break easily. People remember the way you stayed long after others would have walked away. The way you offered second chances, not out of desperation, but because you believed in the potential of connection. This level of loyalty is not common. It is ancestral, cosmic, Venus-forged. And when someone loses it, they quickly learn the truth. Loyalty like yours cannot be replaced. It can only be lost. The third seal is the one that hurts them the most, your glow-up after heartbreak. Because Libras do not crumble when abandoned or underestimated. They rebalance, they refine, they rise. Your transformation becomes the mirror of what they threw away, a living testimony that the best version of you emerged the moment they were no longer allowed to drain you. And so, the universe continues its unfolding. Without your harmony, their relationships feel like expired currencies. The people they attract now mirror their wounds instead of their growth. Every new connection exposes what they mishandled in you. The peace you offered, the support you gave, the emotional maturity you embodied. The next layer of the vault is karmic. You were the blessing that activated their best timeline. With you, doors opened, opportunities expanded, dreams felt possible. Your balanced energy amplified theirs, a synergy they assumed came from themselves. Only after you left did they realize that the harmony had been yours all along. And here lies the most paradoxical truth. Your departure did not punish them. It revealed them. It showed who they become when they are not held by your grace. Your absence stripped away the illusion of their emotional competence, revealing the raw truth beneath. Without you, they revert to an unbalanced version of themselves. What they lost was not comfort. It was alignment, not romance, but resonance, not affection, but equilibrium. And now, their regret becomes a constant echo, not because they wish to return to the past, but because they finally understand the role you played in their destiny. You were the blessing. You were the stabilizer. You were the one who brought beauty, intelligence, fairness, harmony, and peace into spaces that did not know how to hold them. And when you left, the vault closed, a vault containing not just what you gave them, but who they could have become with you. That is the karmic twist. That is the divine reversal. That is why people say over and over again that Libra is the one they regret losing most. But the story is not finished, for next comes your final ascension, the moment you rise beyond their regret and into a destiny that belongs only to you. There comes a moment in every Libra's story when the past no longer has permission to speak. A moment when the scales stop trembling from old wounds and instead rise with the quiet certainty of destiny. This is the emergence, the ascension, the turning of the tide that was always written for you. Because while they are still sifting through the rubble of their regret, you are no longer standing in that timeline. You have outgrown the rooms where your voice once echoed softly. You have surpassed the versions of yourself that bent, softened, and adjusted to keep the peace. Your evolution is not a reaction to loss. It is the natural unfurling of a soul that was always meant to thrive beyond the hands that mishandled it. This is the final reason people regret losing you. Your destiny blooms after separation, not in spite of it, but because you reclaim the energy that was once scattered across people who did not know what they were holding. Your balance becomes sharper, your beauty becomes clearer, your intuition expands into prophecy, your heart refines into discernment. You rise with a calmness that announces itself without sound, without effort, without needing validation from the ghosts of your past. And while you ascend, something else unfolds in the lives of those who lost you. Your absence becomes their compass, a reminder of the peace they mishandled, the harmony they disrupted, the maturity they resisted, and the loyalty they assumed would wait forever. Your glow becomes their lesson. Your evolution becomes their mirror. Your distance becomes their awakening. Because destiny does not allow a soul like yours to remain underestimated. It lifts you. It protects you. It places you in new spaces with people who recognize equilibrium as sacred, who treat your presence as the blessing it is, who understand that love must be mutual, steady, and clean. This is your ascension, Libra, the moment your story steps out of regret's shadow and into its rightful light. You no longer carry the weight of proving your worth. You no longer shrink to maintain false harmony. You no longer translate your soul into languages that break you. You are returning to yourself, the truest, most sovereign version. The universe honors this. It rearranges paths. It redirects energy. It restores everything you poured into the wrong hearts. Because while they finally understand why you were the one they regret losing, most you finally understand why losing them was the beginning of your liberation. And now, as this transmission reaches its final breath, the prophecy becomes clear. You are rising into the chapter they will watch from afar. You are stepping into connections aligned with destiny, not desperation. You are reclaiming the peace that was always yours to begin with. And as you walk forward, balanced and unbothered, the universe whispers its verdict. They regret losing you, but you do not regret choosing yourself.